Okay. Before I get into this lesson today, I have to share a story with you. It was it started off quite difficult. Saturday evening, I was in my bedroom and I looked out my window, and sitting on the hood of my expedition was a wallet or a purse. It was sitting there. And some of the girls were in the house, so I said, there's a purse sitting on top of the hood of the expedition. Does that belong to anyone? And someone said that it did. And I said, well, you might want to get that. And they didn't. Now I got up Saturday morning, go out to do a spot of fishing, to go into the post office. And I was away for 2 hours before I got home. And when I got home, someone came out of the house and said, did you find my purse on top of the hood of the truck? It was panicked. And I said, no, I didn't. I didn't. So we walked up the length of our driveway, and if you've been over our place, you know that's quite a lengthy driveway. So we walked up the length of the driveway and checked both sides of the drive, and there's no purse. I said, what did you have in it? My driver's license, my bank card, and quite a bit of money for someone who's working a minimum wage job. So we walked the length of the driveway. We then started to walk down towards Runnings. And then I realized, hold on a minute, we got to get someone to work and someone somewhere else. So we walked back down the driveway again. We looked for the purse, no purse. So then we all got in the truck and said, what we'll do is we'll drop me off at the lights down at Runnings. I can walk back to the house from there and we'll have another look for the purse. So we get out onto the highway, we're on our way down to the lights, and next thing everybody sees the purse. There it is by the side of the road. So pull over we do, put the emergency lights on, I jump out and run up, and there's the purse completely empty. It's been smashed by cars, it's been flattened, and it was empty. And then I look down, and on the ground there beside it is a card. So I pick, and it's just looks like it's a cardboard card, a business card. And then I look over here and I see a plastic card, and I pick it up, and it's a driver's license of one of my daughters. And I'm like, well, that's a good sign. And then I look over, and I remember I've been 2.5 hours out of the house. I look over, and there's a $20 bill caught in the bushes. So I grab the $20 bill, I run up and get another one of my daughters out of the car, and I said, we need help here, let's come down, we'll do a sweep. So we start sweeping our way down towards Runnings, and the daughter that jumped out of the car, she says, I found $10. So there's another $10, and we're going down, and I'm like, oh, there's another 20, and it's by the side of the road, and she grabs that, and she says, I found the bank card. And so we get down, we work our way down, and I think I found another $20. And the person who lost it is seeing this happening. And of course, they're getting happy. So now we get everything back into the car. We're like $20 short. And we're driving to drop me back at the house again before a certain person goes to work and someone gets... And I look out the corner of my eyes, we're driving up, I see a $20 bill on the other side of the road by the golf course. I'm like, stop! There's the last 20. So we pull over, jump out, I run down the road like a maniac, and boom, we find the last $20. And I'll tell you this, there was much rejoicing, specifically on one person's part, the person that had lost it. Everything that was lost was found. Jesus, when he comes to explaining life to us, keeps it very simple. He says this, he's a genius in his teaching. He says a man had a sheep, he lost that sheep. He found that sheep, and he was happy. There is the mystery of life. There is life itself, laid out by Christ, the big picture of a world. In this world that is falling apart, Christ breaks it down simply to this: a man had a sheep, he lost a sheep, he found a sheep, and he was happy. And this whole world, we're told by Isaiah, are like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. Isaiah 53:6. I watched, and I don't advise you to watch, but I watched footage of Kensington, Philadelphia, and the drug epidemic that's going on down there. They're taking a drug called xylazine. It's a tranquilizer for large animals, and they're mixing it with fentanyl, which is another horse tranquilizer, and they're injecting it into themselves, and it's rotting away their flesh, literally. And they're like living dead. Like the living dead. It's like a zombie movie there in Kensington, Philadelphia. And I watched it and I looked at it and I thought, what is this? And then I came to a realization that this is a picture of mankind. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science, not quantum physics or quantum mechanics. These are the sheep that have gone astray. These are those who have wandered away from the Good Shepherd, and they're lost. The problem is not their environment or their genetics. It's not that they had bad parenting techniques, not chemical imbalances. It's not socioeconomic disadvantages. It's that they have wandered away from the Good Shepherd, and they're the lost sheep that Christ came into the world to find. See, thank God that Christ came to shine the light of knowledge into our lives. And he came to shine the light of knowledge into our lives, and he did it in a way and explained that all of life's problems boil down to this. It's a sheep issue. It's a sheep who is lost, or a sheep who is found. Either they're safe with the shepherd, or they're alone in a deadly wilderness of sin and Satan and death. And Christ has shined that knowledge into our lives. Now, in this parable that Jesus taught, we want to have a brief look at it. He brings up this shepherd who had 100 sheep, and he loses one. And it's not negligence on the shepherd's part. Text tells us that the sheep wandered away, or Matthew 18:12-14 says they went astray. And the audience that Christ is talking to here are the sinners and tax collectors, the adulterers, the homosexual offenders, the prostitutes, the drunkards, the sorcerers, the drug users, the occult practitioners, the thieves, the murderers, the criminals, the dissidents, the political activists. And then there's the tax collectors there, the corrupt, greedy money grabbers, the financial predators. And Christ is speaking to them. And the Pharisees don't like it. Doesn't like that he's speaking with or fellowshipping with the sinners. And their issue is that they thought that God should separate, that those who worship God should separate themselves from the unclean, immoral people like the sinners. And why did they think that? Well, because they believed God was like that. They believed that God separated himself from sinners. But they were wrong. Oh, how wrong they were. See, they failed to see that some of the sheep that Jesus talked about strayed into religion. You wouldn't find Paul down eating and drinking with the tax collectors and sinners. You wouldn't have found him withholding his tithes and offerings. You wouldn't have seen him failing to understand the scriptures or following the 613 laws that the Jews had formulated that revolved around the Old Testament tradition and the traditions of the elders. Paul would have done it all, but Paul had wandered. He was a lost sheep. Pharisees didn't recognize that. And that's the same today. There's the same today in religion where people are not pumping trank, as it's called, or xylazine into their veins. They're pumping ritual, pumping religion, pumping traditions of their fathers and emotions in their worship, and they're pumping it into their veins like spiritual drugs. But they're lost. Lost sheep. And what's the man do when he loses a sheep? Well, he goes looking for it because he values that sheep. And how long does he pursue that sheep? Well, as long as it takes. Long as it takes. And what does he do when he gets home? When he finds that sheep? Carrying it on his shoulders, he calls his family and his friends together because he can't keep his joy to himself. The minute we found that wallet yesterday, I called Connie to tell her the story. That which was lost was found. Why? Couldn't keep the joy to myself. And God's like that. And at times I feel to recognize that. That in Him, in His being, there's an endless joy. And that joy is He finds in the sinner who repents. The sinner who changes his mind and his actions, who's going this way in life, who realizes that they're a lost sheep and turn around and they come to the Master Shepherd. And God rejoices in that. And I don't think He ever stops rejoicing in that. I saw a bumper sticker, and I can't remember when I saw it, but it's one of those bumper stickers that stays with you. It said, "Feel distant from God? Who moved?" Who moved? It wasn't God. It was me that moved. See, the sheep strayed. The sheep dived into a world that it couldn't handle. And I asked myself, why did the sheep do it? And I used to think sheep were stupid. And then I talked to a sheep farmer. I thought, if any man knows about sheep, it will be him. I said, are sheep stupid? He said, no. He says, but they're stubborn. And I thought to myself, oh, Ian, does that not describe you? Stubborn. That's me. I want to do what I want to do. And I don't want to listen to the shepherd and the results. It's a disaster. Every time. Not just sometimes. Not just 95% of the time. And then there's a 5% window where, yeah, that went really well. It's always bad. But yet, I'm a sheep that's stubborn. Another problem with sheep is not only are they stubborn, they're not ninjas. When was the last time you saw a sheep get into an MMA ring and fight an MMA fighter? They're not good fighters. They're not able to deal with the things of this world. And there's powers of darkness out there in this world that want to destroy us, and we're not up to beating them. I can't do it. I can't overcome it. I can't defeat the devil. I'm powerless. Now listen to me, not to the kids. Forget the kids. This is too important. I'm not able to do it. We've got powers arrayed against us that we're not able to defeat. And they purpose to destroy us. And sheep, they just can't fight those predators. And neither can we. I was in a Bible study. I got invited to a Bible study this past week with 10 Roman Catholic men on Tuesday evening. These are lovely people, God-fearing people. No doubt about it, they take their faith seriously. The topic that we were on was forgiveness or forgiving. It seemed evident quite quickly. They didn't have a lot of knowledge about what that forgiveness really meant. But they had plenty of guilt about not forgiving people. During the question, and it was an hour, and I listened, I sat there and listened, I asked a couple of clarifying questions, that was it. And they were ruminating over how they were unforgiving and how they needed to forgive more and what does that mean, and they were ironing it out, and they were talking about the effect of not forgiving on the relationship the Christian has with the Father and all these kinds of things, and then the judgment and the hell, and they were going big, and it was good. And sadly, they were floundering around in the dark. But one question they asked near the very end, and I don't know where it came into this, but it was connected to the topic. The guy that was teaching the class says, can you always be close with God? Is there a way that we can always be close with God? And then I heard the things about ritual and reading the scriptures and going to this, that, and other spiritual activity. And I didn't say it. And I don't know if it was a mistake or not. Maybe I should have said it. I'm always close with God. Always. Are you not? Because see, I'm the sheep that went astray. But the shepherd came and found me and carried me back, rejoicing. And Christian, that's what he did with you too. That's what he did with us. Yes, the story of this world is about sheep that have gone astray, but we're those who came home. We're those that he carried back. And we can't forget that. And we're those that he continues to rejoice over. Peter says this, and I'm nearly done. 2 Peter 2:21. For to this you were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that they should follow in his steps. He committed no sin, nor deceit was found in his mouth. Who, when he was reviled, did not revile in return. When he suffered, he didn't threaten, but committed himself to him who judges righteously. He who himself bore our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, having died to sins, might live for righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. For you were like sheep, going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. So as we move forward into this difficult world, with difficult lives and trials, tribulations and hardship and suffering and confusion, we have to remember that as the sheep that have been found, we can say this: the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. Why? For you are with me. You are with me. And your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When it came to life, Jesus, in his great wisdom, summed this thing up as simple as this: a man had a sheep, he found it, and lost a sheep, he found a sheep, and he was happy. And brothers and sisters, you and I were those lost sheep that he found, and he's happy. We're going to have one more song. We give thanks for the food.